Look at this photograph. It was snapped back in 1990 above a tiny village deep in the Scottish Highlands. But is it real, fake, or something stranger?
It's no helicopter, it's no aeroplane, it's a UFO.
Whatever you might think, this photo refuses to be forgotten.
Ah, yes. This is the Calvine photo. This is the one we're talking about. It's a great image. I mean, people refer to it as the best or one of the best images of a UFO ever taken.
That's Craig Williams, a BBC journalist who's agreed to help me go back in time to understand what happened. I've asked him to meet the team in the BBC archive vault. It's a good location to discuss a story with more twists and turns than a Spielberg plot, only quieter and more Scottish.
So as far as we know, in August the 4th, 1990, two guys who were working as chefs in Pitlochry went for a walk after work. During the course of their walk, what they told is that they saw an object hanging in the air. They described it as being fairly big, probably around about 80 feet or so is what you can kind of guess from the photographs that we've now seen. It was diamond shaped, it apparently didn't make a noise, or in some retellings of it, it says it maybe made a low hum. And it was hanging in the air above the glen that they were walking in. They were a bit freaked by it. They hid by the side of the glen, beside a fence, which is what we see in the photograph, and they took 6 snaps of this. And in the course of taking the snaps, what is now seen to be a Harrier jet, which was an RAF jet that was in service at the time, flew around it and flew by it, and that's pictured in the actual photograph. They say they grabbed these 6 photographs and then they went about their way. In the course of watching it, at some point, this aircraft, or whatever you want to call it, lifted vertically very, very quickly. So it went up the way quite fast, and that was the last they saw of it.
Here's what happened next. So the two men sent the photos to the Daily Record, one of the biggest tabloids in Scotland at the time. The paper wanted an official statement from the Ministry of Defence about the photos. So they got in contact with the press officer, a guy called Craig Lindsay. Remember that name. Craig Lindsay took statements from the two men, wrote up a report, sent it to his superiors down in London. The Daily Record never ran the story or printed the photos, completely out of character for a tabloid at that time. But that wasn't the only weird thing.
According to Craig Lindsay, later that year, or quite soon afterwards, he went down to London for a standard meeting that he would always have with his bosses in the Ministry of Defence. And he went up to the office of the people who dealt with this sort of thing. And when he went into the office, there was a massive blown up poster of the wall of one of the images. So obviously he was, interested to know why they were looking at this and asked them about it. What they said to him was that it was being dealt with.
So it seems the MOD did look into the strange sighting, at least at one point. The photograph remained undisturbed in the National Archives until 2009, when investigative journalist and academic Dr. David Clarke discovered a reproduction of the image. His subsequent search for answers lasted more than a decade and ultimately led him to Craig Lindsay.
So he phoned Craig Lindsay, who by then is long retired, in his 80s, living in Fife, gave him a call, and he says that the first thing Craig Lindsay said to him is, "I know what you're phoning about, and I've been waiting for this for 30 years.
In Craig Lindsay's garage lay another copy of the Calvine UFO photo. His copy had been sitting untouched in a file for more than 30 years. All it took was a phone call. The photo was finally published by the Daily Mail in 2022, and its resurfacing was widely discussed online. But the Calvine photo isn't the only UFO mystery to come out of Scotland during that period.
You've heard of the Bermuda Triangle, tales that there's life on Mars, but strange goings-on in Bonnybridge, Scotland doesn't have quite the same ring about it. Yet, the villagers there have come across a host of unexplained happenings that would have X-Files scriptwriters scrabbling for their pens.
What made me look into this story was the fact that in the 1990s, just about 30 years ago, there was this extraordinary amount of coverage given to what those in UFO circles call a flap in the area known as the Falkirk Triangle, which is a kind of section of central Scotland which covers places like Grangemouth, it covers Falkirk, it covers a little village called Bonnybridge. And from around the 1992 onwards, there was a lot of talk about UFOs being seen in the skies above there.
Well, nearly 1,000 people have attended a packed meeting at Falkirk Town Hall, hoping to find the truth behind thousands of claimed UFO sightings over Bonnybridge.
I'm jumping out of the edit here. The so-called Falkirk Triangle witnessed an incredibly high number of UFO sightings during the 90s. At the time, the media hype was huge.
Where have you come from?
Birmingham, to find out the answers, if there is any.
This area is supposed to be rather, it's quite a hotspot for UFOs, so just wanted to see what the experts were going to say.
The people in here have paid £2 a time for the privilege of finding out what may or may not be in the skies over Bonnybridge. Many of them want to know the answers.
In a poll, a third of the audience said they'd seen UFOs. They'd come looking for an answer to things they couldn't explain. Instead, they heard things they couldn't understand. Phyllis Schlemmer claims to have been kidnapped by aliens twice, and she says she receives messages from the Council of Nine, believed to be a group of extraterrestrials.
The Council of Nine are 9 beings, pure energy light. They're not physical beings that say that they are 9 principles of the universe. They talk about planet Earth being the paradise of the universe, the prototype for the paradise of the universe, the only planet in the entire universe that has individual free will.
Coverage like this put Scotland in the centre of the UFO map, but it's hard to know if the hysteria was a product of the media circus that surrounded all the sightings, or if it was just part of the wider obsession with extraterrestrial life that people had in the 90s.
I'm always sitting at the window and I'm always looking at the sky and I've never seen a thing.
I have seen flashes, yes, but I wouldn't say there was anything alien at all, no.
I'm a firm believer myself, there is something obviously different goes on in the universe.
It was a time when magazines which cover strange phenomena like 40 in Times were selling hundreds of thousands of copies. There was a TV programme based on that magazine. And one of the biggest things at the time was the X-Files, which came out in 1993, an American TV programme about researchers trying to find out an overarching conspiracy to hide from us that UFOs are alien visitors, and that kind of conspiracy to cover this up and to cover up what they were doing to us. And that was an enormous thing. And it really all built into a kind of atmosphere of people being interested in this sort of stuff. And I think that's really interesting culturally. But on the ground, you just had people in that area apparently phoning in detail after detail of what was happening in the skies above.
It was a big disc, and the colours, it started off white, and you see the red colours coming up through it, then it went back to white, and it started moving.
I knew it wasn't a helicopter or a balloon or anything, but I just couldn't give an explanation.
She was, Barry, is that a UFO? And I said, Jane, didn't talk daft. And she started laughing after that.
Now, there've been a lot of explanations for what this might have been. You could talk about mass hysteria, you could talk about people seeing things, but if, there's an old adage that the act of observing something changes the thing being observed. And so if people are looking up more and people are actually looking for this, they might be seeing them.
Okay, back to the Calvine photograph. I still have a few questions. Andrew Robinson, a colleague of Dr. David Clark at Sheffield Uni, confirmed the photo was real. It hadn't been faked. It doesn't prove the object was an alien craft. It just means the image wasn't edited later. Whatever's in that frame had to be there when the shutter clicked. Now, there's no doubt some big mysteries remain. We never found out the identities of the 2 men who took the photo. The Daily Record didn't explain why they dropped the story. There's no trace of the Harrier jet or its pilot. And why did the MOD keep the original photo locked away for decades? Can any of it be explained?
Probably the most interesting, probably the most realistic idea of what was seen there is that this was some kind of military hardware. And the research is going on. There are people living in Calvine, and the researchers from Sheffield Hallam University are still digging into this. As they say, a mystery is a great thing for a journalist. You want to solve it and you want to know what's going on. So they're going to keep doing that. And who knows, at any point something else might come out that lets us know what actually was in the skies above Calvine that night in August 1990.
So perhaps this is a mystery that will always sit just out of reach. But then again, stories like this have a habit of surprising us. And who knows, the next piece of the puzzle might already be out there. You might be surprised by this, but the BBC has done loads of reporting on UFO sightings across the UK. You can find out all of these and more on the BBC News website. See you next time.